Welcome back to Ralph Pinson's podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern man. Today's episode was sponsored Le'ilui Nishmas Yaina Ben Shmaryo. Today's episode is the 29th in our Q&A series.
Welcome back to Pinson's podcast. What are angels, and are there such a thing as demons? Do they exist?
Angels and demons. Okay. So in general, there are two types of things, two types of constructs that are related into the creation story. One is called Maisa Bereshis, and one is called Maisa Merkava. So the Maisa Bereshis means the doings of creation, which is the story of how the creation came into being, and then Maisa Merkava is sort of the inner narratives of the working of the chariot. Maisa Merkava is a chariot, and the way the Rambam, famously Maimonides, the way that the Rambam writes in the beginning of Hilchos Yesodei Torah, in the beginning of the Rambam, is that Maisa Merkava also deals with the idea of angels, speaking about the world of angels, and in general, the way the Rambam explains the idea of angels is that angels are connected to a tzura b'li chomer. They're connected to form without substance. That they have a form without substance. We don't understand what that means. In other words, we cannot conceive that with our minds. Anything that we conceive it as having both a chomer and a tzura, both has a form and a substance. So if you look at a table, there's a substance of the table itself, and then there's a form of the table, and they're one and the same. We can't differentiate between these two. But the possibility, conceptually, there could be such an idea of something that has form that doesn't yet have substance. Now, in general, what is the idea of a malach? What is the idea of an angel? Is the way the Rambam explains this, more particularly in the Guy, in the Mar Nevuchim, is that a malach represents a messenger, or a conduit, that it's a conduit of energy, a conduit of processes of energy that are flowing. That means that really, essentially, on a deeper level, everything technically is an angel. Everything is delivering a message. Everything in this world is delivering a message. There's a way of thinking about a certain type of paradigm, the way the Arizal Isaac Lurie speaks about this, in terms of everything in this world, every speech that's in this world, has malachim, neshamas, and alikus. Has malachim, which is angels, has neshamas, which is souls, and has alikus, which is divinity. Has, similar to the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, which is olam is neshamas and malachim, which is worlds, souls, and divinity. So angels, souls, and divinity means that any type of experience in this world that we're having, there's a certain level of our consciousness that's observing the experience or participating in the experience. That's the level of our soul. And then there is the divine animating force that's giving that experience life, which is the elikus, the divinity that exists in the experience. And then the question becomes, what is the malach? What is the malach? What is the message? Why am I experiencing this particular thing? That's really a question of how are you engaging with life. Anytime you see something, anytime you hear something, anytime you're experiencing something, the question that you should ask yourself is, what is the message that's being told to me? And how can I grow from that type of experience? What's the message? And it can be anything. I mean, even you hear a certain sound, you see a particular color. If you're just open to life, and everything is, the world is filled, to say it a little differently, Hashem is always talking to us. The Creator is always talking to us, and the messages are always there. We just have to pick up on the message. That's the angelic aspect of the idea, is to pick up on the message and to experience it, to see what the message is. What is it telling us? How am I supposed to grow from the experience, and what is it telling me about my life? So this is the general idea in a very abstract level, still, or a very more refined level, which is that angels represents the message. But more specifically, there are two types of angelic entities. So this would be angels as an idea of everything, that everything is really an angel. But then there's an entity that's called an angel. And in that, there are generally two types of angels. I'll try to explain it like this. That one is the subjective angel, which means one that's created through our own deeds, through our own actions, through our own thoughts. And one is the objective angel, which is a creation that is created prior to our creation, that exists outside, independent of our creation. The angels that exist as a subjective are the projections of our own experiences. So there's a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, in Pirkei Avos, in Ethics of Our Father, the Mishnah says that someone that does a mitzvah, someone does a positive deed. Doing a positive deed means an action, or even a word, or even a thought. A person has a thought. There's a certain type of releasing. He creates a certain gem. So the Bartanura says that this gem is a malach me'eretz yoshes, as a positive energy, a positive quality that's being released into the fabric, into the atmosphere. This is a subjective angel, which means it's a reflection of our actions. It's a reflection of our thoughts. It's the outer expression, the spiritual outer expression, or the metaphysical outer expression of a person's thoughts, words, and actions. That's one form of angels. And we surround ourselves with those angels. So we're constantly surrounded in this angelic experience of the angels that we create. Obviously, for the positive, we're talking about something that we have positive thoughts, we create these angels. Then there's another construct of angels, which is angels that are created in the story of the creation story. There are two different opinions in the Medrash amongst the sages when angels were created, whether created at day 2 of the creation story, which is the original state of the world of manifest reality, the way it's dividing itself. It's the world of separation, Havdalah, and therefore angels are created that day, or are they created on day 5? This type of angel, these angels, are also serve as conduits, and they represent and they embody the quality of allowing for the transformation of pure spirit, pure divine highest life force, or pure energy, if you will, to become matter. So let's think about this like this. Principally, there is the unmanifest, or the infinite one, the Orient Sof, infinite light. And then there's the Sof. This is the physical manifestation, the creative time, space, and consciousness, which is what we feel and experience with our senses, the 5 senses. The transformation or the creation from the infinite to finitude, or from absolute spirit into matter, could possibly be created instantaneously, because Hashem is a Kol Yachol, which means the Creator, Hashem, infinite one, is not limited to our own understandings of the way infinite could create. But if we were to think of creation in the form of how we would create, so in order for us to create, we work in a very linear way, in a very progressive and step-by-step stages. If you want to create something, there's a process. So let's say you want to create, I don't know, if you want to create even music, you want to create art, you want to create something. So you have an idea, then you formulate the idea in your mind, then you get a pen and paper, then you put it on the pen and paper or a computer and you write it down. And then you publish it. So there's a process in order to get out information, to go from a purely theoretical state, the way it exists within your mind, in order to become something practical on a piece of paper or on a CD or whatever, however you're listening. So there's a process. It's process-oriented. Principally speaking, infinity can instantaneously create yesh mayim, something from nothing, which means that there's a nothingness, emptiness, and emptiness can emerge as something instantaneously. But that would defy logic, or the way we define logic. We're created in a way that we think that creativity takes processes. In order for something to go from a conceptual state to an actual state, it has to go through a process. So because we think this way, and Hashem created us in this way, God created us in this way, that we think through processes, through my flesh I see Hashem, which is a fundamental understanding of how we understand the whole construct of all of Kabbalah and Chassidus, really. That all the spiritual teachings which speak about a sort of devolution of the infinite light in order to become finite. That it goes through a process of tzimtzum, it contracts itself, and then it becomes more refined, more concretized, and more contextualized until it becomes something concrete, as something as physical. In theory, which is it passes through like a whole chain of events, or chain of inner processes in order to get to that state of physicality. Theoretically, it doesn't have to go through that. It can be created instantaneously. Hashem desires to create a world, and boom, the world is created. That it could work that way. But Hashem wanted us to have some type of understanding. I'm sorry, that is a mitzvah to understand Hashem, to understand the workings of the creation. At some level, as much as the human capacity to understand. So we understand things through processes. Now let's get back to the idea of angels. It didn't have to be this way, but this is the way it is, which is, in order for something to transform from pure spirit to become manifest into form, and the definition of form would be something that has the qualities of Eish, Mayim, Ruach, Afer, fire, wind, earth, and water, or hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon. However you understand that, dry, wet, fluid, and solid. However you understand these four elements, in order for something to go from pure spiritual reality to be manifest into something that has the four dimensions of these four properties, I will just say them very simply what they mean, even though they're not literal. It doesn't mean fire, literal fire. But fire, wind, earth, and water, these are the four yesodis, these are the four foundationals. It would need to go through a state where it's no longer spirit, but not yet the four elements. That would be the transformation of moving from state A, from A to Z would have to go through those processes. So if A would be pure spirit, pure light, that has no dimension, that has no context, and then it becomes revealed and becomes concretized into matter that has the four elements, Eish, Mayim, Ruach, Afer, fire, wind, earth, and water. If we would have to do that, we would also have to go through an intermediary state. The Malach, the angel, represents that intermediary state. So that's why the Ramban, Nachmanides, very famously writes that angels do have properties, does have chomer, does have some type of substance. The substance of angels is fire and wind, not earth and water. So the pure light reveals itself into fire and wind. Fire and wind is the most refined, or the most
subtle.
Yeah, most subtle of the four elements. It's not it's observable maybe, but it's not tangible. You can't touch fire, you can't touch wind. You could see it. Now imagine if you're able to see something within fire, let's say an image within fire, so it would be sort of like a silhouette of an image. It wouldn't have tangibility. So by pure light revealing itself into fire and wind, that eventually allows it to transform and then come into fire, wind, earth, and water, which become physicality. So the intermediary step, the malach, the conduit, the one that's carrying the energy of the divine energy of pure light from the abstract level, and that's why the angel represents light, and winged angels, it represents something that it's not tangible, it's not anchored into the physical realm, but it's moving from the place of pure. It's not moving; it's carrying the light of refined Ein Sof, infinite light, into the world of Sof, into the material world, is those angels. So those angels represent the passageway that moves from pure spirit into matter. Therefore, in matter is Eish, Mayim, Ruach, Afer, are the four elements, and in the pure level spirit, it's just pure Eish. It's only fire and wind. That would be the intermediary state. Now, it works both directions. It would mean, this is why there's many sources that speak about that when a person does a mitzvah, you do a physical action, or when you daven, when you pray, the angels elevate your tefillas l'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Hashem. Not that you're davening chas v'shalom to the angels, not you're praying specifically to the angels. But machnise rachamim, there's a big debate whether you're allowed to say this passage or not. But let's assume that we do say this. and that's most people in Kal Yisrael do say this, which means the angels of tears, to hold our tears and bring the tears in front of Hashem. What that means is, it's not literal. It means that our words, which are tangible, physical, they come from their physical expression that have, that's created through a physical being. In order for those things to be heard in the place of infinite light of Ein Sof, those words, again, it doesn't have to be this way. That's because we're just thinking about it that way. It has to be transformed into something that's more ethereal, more subtle, and then it becomes so subtle that it can be heard by something that's considered infinity. So the movement goes both ways. It moves from the world of Atzilus, the world of unity, the world of oneness, of Eitzel, that's one. The world, the way it exists in the conception of the Creator. That's the way the world, the desire to create, the will and the desire to create exists within the mind of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachol, within the mind of Hashem. And then, once there's that conception of the world, then it has to manifest into something that's physical, that appears to be outside the Creator, that it's a creator and a creation. And that would be, in the final stage, that would be an Asiya, that would be the physical matter. And the angels will always be the ones that are carrying the movement from Atzilus into Asiya. So let's think about it a little bit slightly different. There's the world of Bria, which is the first manifest world of creation. Then there's the world of Yitzir, formation. And then there's the world of Asiya, which is actualization. Now, those three worlds are three inner worlds, three inner processes in order to become a finalization. They also, in different language, the other Rishonim, other commentaries like a lot of them talk about this idea of Olam HaGalgalim, Olam HaSichlim, Olam HaShamas. This is in many ways to rephrase this, or Chomet Surah Tikkun. These are processes of the movement from the world that is as it exists within the Creator's mind to the world that exists as substance, the world that exists as substance with form, until it becomes actualized in the physical reality. That's Asiya. So therefore, if you think about it this way, there are three subsets of angels. There'll be angels that exist within the world of Bria, which is the movement from the mind of the Creator moving into the world of Bria, which is the way it's existing outside. Bar is already a level of externalization. So there's the world of Bina. So that's the world of Srafim. Srafim, that when the Torah talks about, especially in Tanakh, when it talks about this idea of Srafim means like the fiery ones. Those refer to the angels that exist within the world of Bria, in the world of the first externalization, which is an intellectual process, which is sort of like the blueprint of creation, where the world exists as a chaimer, as pure substance. Then it becomes a little more materialized, and it goes into the world of Yitzira, which is a world where it's formation, which is already, it's also receiving its form. Then over there's the world of, those angels are called Chayas, which is the fire, the wild ones, or the literally animals. That's like the lively ones. So that refers to the emotional angels. So there's the intellectual angels of Srafim, which is the world of Bria. Then there's the fiery ones and the lively ones, which is the angels of Yitzira. And then there is the angels that are connected to Asiya, the physical realm, which is the final level before spirit actually becomes manifest into physical matter. Those are called Ifanim. Or Sandalfund is called Ifanim, which means like they're wheels, that they're moving things from a spiritual realm and it's moving into the world of physicality. That's the nefesh, that's the sort of the soul of the planets, the soul that's moving everything. And then allows for, that shouldn't be a friction, there should be an interface to go from the world of spirit into the world of action. So again, there's angels that we create, that is created subjectively, that means what we release into this world. There's angels that exist within an objective reality, and these generally exist within some form in terms of having fire and wind. And then there's also where these angels become so invested into the world of Asiya, into the physical realm, when an angel, this spirit, this intermediary messenger, becomes revealed in the world of actualization, which is the world of Asiya, the physical reality. This angel will actually appear in the four elements as Eish Mayim Ruach Avar. And therefore, when the Torah describes different types of events, where Avram sees an angel, speaks to the angel. He's encountering the angels. He's actually having experience with angels. So the Rambam would say this all exists within his mind, but that's not the literal translation. That's not the way the Ramban and all the other commentators learn this. It's an actual experience that he experienced, a real encounter with a being. This is not because the angels have these properties. They become vested within these properties in order to be able to show itself and to reveal itself into Avram. Okay, that's one level angel. And then there's the angel, so the subjective angels, the objective angel, and the entirety of angels is the idea of a messenger. And in terms of our own spiritual world, in our own avodah, in our own spiritual practice, when it says that sometimes our sages speak about a person becomes like angelic. What does it mean he becomes like angelic? So you can be an angel on all these three levels of being. If you live with egoless clarity of mind, then that's the level of Seraphim. That's the level of Bria, which means if a person can get out of his head and get out of all the clutter and be in a state where there's complete clarity, that's a person that's experiencing an angelic experience in their own life of what it means to live on a state of that purity of Seraphim. That's why the Maharal writes that the revealing of Eliyahu Hanavi, the revealing of Elijah the prophet, could be b'orach haseichel, within a person's intelligence, in the ways of intelligence, which means that a person experiences a complete level of clarity. When a person has an emotion, a very pure, holy emotion, transcendent emotion that's also devoid of all ego, and just pure, really wanting to connect to Hashem, connect to their source, then they're experiencing Chayes HaKodesh. They're experiencing what it means to have a holy, fiery, lively emotion, pure emotion. When a person does an action, a completely selfless action, pure action, for the sake of doing the right thing, you do the truth because it's true and you do it correctly, then this person is experiencing the level of Efanim, which is a pure action. But either way, the whole structure is, in terms of our life and what it's so important, is to always see the experiences that we're having, to see what is the angelic message that Hashem is trying to tell us. What is the malach in the experience? Whenever a person tells you something, and even could be something harsh, you have to ask yourself the question. You have to translate the question to ask yourself is, what is that experience? How am I experiencing it in terms of a message from Hashem? What is the message that I'm being told, and how can I learn from the experience? So that would be a way to really translate that into practical life.
So if someone's telling you something and it feels egoless.
Yeah.
So then and it's something about intelligence or a way of thinking differently. Correct. That would be like a Seraphim messenger. And a messenger who's conveying something passionate and trying to get you fired up about something important, bring out a certain emotion, feel towards something, that would be a Chayes messenger. Correct. And likewise for our
action. That's correct. But even if the person is, the truth is that even if the person, every single experience that you have, there is a giver and a receiver in the experience. So there's a person giving you the experience. Let's say they're telling you something, and then you're the recipient of the experience. But to truly live proactively in every type in life is not to be just the recipient of life, but it's to be the creator of life. Someone tells you something. Maybe they're coming from a not a pure place. Could be. They're coming from a place that they're trying to hurt you, maybe. And they're saying something to you. You could be the recipient of it and be a victim. So I'm just receiving what the person's giving me. That's one way of living. Or you could be a creator of the experience and say, okay, that's the way the person is giving it to me, but I'm going to reconfigure it, recontextualize it in my own way of thinking about it. And then I'm going to say, so what is it actually telling me something positive?
So you sift it. You almost take out the bad and keep the good.
Correct. Sift it, transform it. Sometimes someone tells you something, and maybe they're coming from a very bad place, but maybe there's some truth in it. Maybe there's some truth what the person's saying. So first of all, but always to ask yourself, how could I grow, to be a responsible person, to be creative, to be a creator in this world, to be Ashvas Atzur, to become like the creator, which is what ultimately we're trying to do, not just to receive, to become a creator, is to take responsibility for life. To take responsibility means that I'm not the victim. I could be a victim from one level, but I am actually the orchestrator of my existence. So I'm taking conscious choices of how am I going to live my life. This person says this towards me. Okay, maybe that's his problem, and he has to do his tikkun. And I feel bad for them that they think this way and have these negative thoughts. But Hashem's trying to tell me something, and there's a certain message that I have to glean from this. And the more a person is able to receive the positive, like you say, like to sift out the positive of it, like the Nakuda Taiva, like the positive quality within the experiences, the more the Nakuda Taiva actually becomes more revealed to them. The more they actually start seeing the hand of Hashem being revealed to them in their life.
Thank you for listening to Rav Pinson's podcast. To submit questions or to sponsor a future episode, please email ravpinsonpodcast@gmail.com. The link is in the description below.